Thank you. You'll be happy to hear that this is the second to last question. All right. The question is, what do you think is the most important or significant trait or characteristic of a Grand Lodge officer? And the first answer will be candidate number 1.
When you become a Grand Lodge officer, there are a list of expectations that you agree to. And I think following through with those commitments, being true to your word, I guess would probably be about the most important thing that you've got going for you. Follow through on your promises and commitments, your communications, I think is probably the biggest problem that we have. If you don't know the answer, at least give somebody the courtesy of saying, I'm not sure at this time, but I will get back with you, rather than just leaving people in limbo and not returning an email. As we talked to somebody earlier today, those that are involved with the lodge and the Grand Lodge will find out that you will get a whole page of emails in one day, and unless you're diligent at purging them, things that go to the second page go into the dark hole that may not ever be returned again. So the situation is you've got to be on top of it, making sure that you write yourself lots of notes and making hard copies of anything that you commit to, because no matter how much you try to remember, there are things that will slip your mind, and unfortunately somebody else has to pay the consequences for the problems that you might have created for yourself. Thank you.
Candidate number 2.
I think the most important attribute of a Grand Lodge officer is that he wants to serve the craft. If he wants to serve the craft, he's going to do the best job that he can. He's going to do the communications. He needs to want to be a servant, not just a leader, because a good leader serves the organization and the members of that organization. So the best and most important attribute of a Grand Lodge officer is to be a servant to all of the members of our great craft. Thank you.
And candidate number 3.
Oh, you stole my thunder. The Grand Secretary likes to say, I love you, brother, or anything you can do about it. And really what that does is that exemplifies essentially what Right Worshipful Brother Charles just said, is the Grand Lodge officers, especially those we elect, need to always bear in mind that what we're doing is for the good of Masonry. It's not to receive a set of applause or any other thing that you may get by virtue of the rank you have. In several of my writings, I say that in different ways, but the bottom line is that elected officer needs to put his own personal desires aside, and as much as possible, follow the guidelines that we have. We have tools that tell us how to do certain things, and make sure that the decisions that are made and the work that's being done is for the good of Masonry. That's first, last, and always. Masonry first, self second. Now, we talk about our priorities as men, as Masons, family, faith, etc. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when the Grand Lodge officer serves in the various capacities, he needs to constantly be asking himself, am I doing my job for the good of the fraternity? Is what I propose to do for the good of fraternity? And will it be a positive thing to do? Constant introspection, and the priority being the fraternity.
Thank you.
Okay, final question, which candidate 2 will field first. Many have voiced concern about the exclusively Christian reference to books of faith required in our ritual. Do you support an allowance for the substitution of a more generic term, such as volume of sacred law, when the situation is appropriate? Why or why not?
had a feeling this question was going to come up here. Before I was in lodge this morning, I would have said absolutely not. You, worshipful master, made a very good point. When we obligate a brother who is not of the Christian faith, and we get to parts of the lecture where your hand was placed on the Holy Bible. No, it wasn't. It was placed on some other word. I am having to rethink my position, and I think I am going to vote for that resolution in Grand Lodge this year, just because of those few words that you said this morning.
Candidate 3.
Wow, you were persuasive. I wasn't even here and I say yes. Most jurisdictions these days now use that terminology and should. Since the Grand Lodge of England was first formed, that procedure has been pretty much honored in the English lodges. There is nothing in our ritual that prohibits doing that, to my knowledge. And I believe that any master who chooses to do that today will not be in any way condemned. However, to codify it, I think is probably a good thing. Our obligation is to the Creator. How we come to the Creator, we as Masons have repeatedly said, doesn't matter. We believe in a supreme being, we believe in the great architect of the universe. We use that terminology for a reason. So using the volume of the sacred law for the various faiths, perfectly appropriate, and I think we should do that.
Thank you. Candidate 8.
I agree also that the resolution should be passed, that we do recognize all faith is one of our principles, and that each faith that does enter our craft should be welcomed with open arms, and there should be no prejudice one way or the other. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, since we answered that question fairly quickly, I think we can carve out 9 more minutes and give each of you an opportunity for any closing remarks you may want to add before we shut the session down. Let's give them 3 minutes apiece. And very worshipful Brother Jim, you will start.
Oh, thanks. I think that the questions that were brought up and the answers given do a very good job of calling up the major issues that we will face, provide you with an opportunity to see the candidates, perhaps an idea of what their strengths are, and what you can expect from them as whichever one of us is elected goes through the chair. I think all of us have shown that our commitment is to the fraternity. I don't think any of the 4 candidates are more interested in the title than they are in serving our fraternity and doing what needs to be done. For myself, I think that my skills and experience are fit well for what needs to be done in the fraternity over the next several years. Looking at the long-range plan, I had an opportunity to look at it here this past week, and there's a lot of the things in the works that I think are absolutely necessary and are going to have to be handled very carefully. I believe that my skills, my experience, and my abilities will serve well in seeing that long-range plan implemented, and the many of the issues raised are brought to fruition. Well, I took a minute and a half.
Thank you. Very worshipful Brother Warren.
I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here today. You guys are the dedicated workers of the craft, and because you are here today, that means that you are interested and serious about what happens to your future. I've traveled with the other 3 brothers, of which put their name in for the Junior Grand Warden's position, and either way, whoever the brethren ballot on in June will have very fine individual to represent them into the future, and I thank you very much for the time today to share the time with you brothers and answer your questions. Thank you.
Very worshipful Brother Charles.
thank Daylight Lodge for hosting this. It gives us a chance to explain ourselves and to answer questions that you have. Thank all the brothers that remain to hear this. I believe that whichever one of the four of us that you pick is going to do a good job. I believe that we are all dedicated to the good of Masonry and to this Grand Lodge in particular, and that whichever of us is elected Junior Grand Warden is going to be a good selection. Thank you.
Can I have my other minute and a half?
Afterwards, after the gavel. So that concludes the 2014 Junior Grand Warden Candidate Forum. Thank you very much to everyone that attended. Thank you to everyone that submitted questions to us. If your question was not read, it's because we felt it was inappropriate. Many questions were addressed towards somebody currently an active officer in the Grand Lodge. So we didn't feel it was appropriate to ask the candidates about the inner workings of why Grand Lodge is doing certain things at this point. They're not there yet. Thank you to Ray and his technology committee for volunteering the equipment and manpower to videotape this. We're going to edit it and we're going to make it available to everyone in the jurisdiction and online for that matter. And a special thank you to the candidates. We couldn't have done this without you, and I agree that I think our jurisdiction will be well served. Thanks everyone.